Mr. Stubenbort called in advance.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Very good, thank you, Scotty. Chad Stubenbort, 510 California Avenue. I wanted to discuss really two agenda items. The first being the RFP that is under board resolutions to actually look at a realtor to potentially move forward, or broker of record to move forward with the sale of the junior high if that's the board's desire, and really discuss how the last one came to be. Also, I know under the list of bills, there's a $2,500 bill due to the 360 group this week. So the first question I had actually was for you, Mr. Dice, from a legality standpoint. So on April 18th, in executive session, about 10 minutes before the board meeting, we all received this letter. Everyone that was on the board, I'm sure, is very familiar with. Two-page letter from the 360 group. Arthur McAlley, broker of record, signed it. Talks about two simple terms. The terms being $2,500 monthly retainer and 1% transaction fee upon the sale or lease of the building. Steve, actually, you made a motion and actually suppressed any conversation about the motion, as you called it, to vote with this document, correct?
Go on.
Is that accurate? Okay. So my question is how a month later an agreement was signed, which is a 12-page document signed over a month later that has terms that the board never voted upon. So I was just wondering for you, Mr. Geist, if the contract would be null and void, being that the contract was never voted on, was never listed as an exhibit. I think that they should be listed as the broker's record as the motion was carried by Mr. O'Donnell. But the only two stipulations at that point in time were the 2,500 and the 1%. So there's no marriage clause as of if you were to get rid of them, that you would have to stay married to them for the length of the contract.
That's it, right? You got the question out.
What's that?
You got the question out, right?
Yes, that is in there.
Okay, as you know, this has been discussed back and forth with the board now for a couple months. And I know there's been some assertions that there was never any contract between the parties, and others said that there was a contract. And depending on if there was no contract, well then naturally there would be a question as to whether or not what was signed, or whether or not the board ever approved that contract. And if that was the case, then it would be possibly voidable. I went back and Bonnie pulled the minutes from the meeting, and here they are. And I'm going to pass out a copy to everybody. I think this pretty much says it all. It goes on for 3 pages. Starts out a resolution presented by board members. In it, it discusses the approval of the 360 group as the facilitator and the individual that will be representing you. It quotes fees. It indicates that the fee that they're quoting is a 1% and the $2,500, which is consistent with the writing that we get later. I would suggest to you the vote was, it appears it was attempted to be tabled, you'll see that. The vote was 5-4. And the vote passed, the motion carried. I think this document, when I looked at it today, and I saw it for the first time today, really says exactly what you have as far as an understanding with the 360 group. We recognize, and again, it gives the terms, $2,500 a month, retainer, plus necessary expenses and materials, retainer to be paid monthly, and the 1% transaction fee, which I would suggest to you is a fee that's relatively low for the sale or lease value on all portions of the property. When I heard that there was some question, I wanted to see what we actually voted on. And it appears to me that you voted and approved the contract. I don't know that there's any question anymore. When you look at the language that's in here and the vote that's taken, I don't know how you can dispute that. But I thought it was important to give it to you so you could see it.
And I couldn't agree more with you, Mr. Geist. The question I have, though, is there's an additional clause in the actual contract, which was not brought up by Steve O'Donnell, not in the executive material that we're given 10 minutes before the meeting.
What was that?
That is the transaction fee of 1% of gross sales or total lease value shall be paid to the contractor if a sale or lease for any portion or all of the property is executed during the agreement period, and if the contractor's efforts result in the sale of the lease within 12 months following the termination of this agreement. So even if you were to terminate the agreement, they would still be paid in a 12-month timeframe.
Okay,
and that was
well-
never brought up.
As far as I'm concerned, the document that you voted on says the retainer to be paid monthly and the 1% transaction fee upon the sale or lease value of all portions of the property. You might be right about adding more terms to it, but this is what you agreed to. And if they become the procuring cause and they bring a buyer, a reasonable buyer to you, I think you're gonna owe them that fee. This isn't rocket science. It says what it says right in the minutes, and you guys all voted on it.
Yeah, and again, that was, I don't think there's any question as to whether or not they passed the work.
What you're saying, I think we could dispute the fact that we'd have to pay them a fee if they didn't do their job, or if they were terminated for some reason. But I think that this document says if they procure the seller, or the buyer, you owe them the fee.
Okay, very good. And then the last question I had for you, Steve, 'cause I'm not sure if you ever answered while I was still on the board. Did you have any personal dealings or any dealings with the 360 group or with Art prior to this? I know you had pushed for him pretty.
Yeah, probably 10, 15 years ago, while I was managing partner of an investment corporation, we had dealings with C.B. Richard Ellis. At that time, our colleague was a commercial broker with C.B. Richard Ellis. We did maybe 3 or 4 deals together. And since then, we haven't had any, actually almost no contact. So 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I saw. He donated your campaign, according to the campaign finance report. That's why I found it. I know it's not illegal, but ethically I was questioning it as to why you pushed it, you actually called it to vote, and now you're attacking someone who wants to bring in other vendors and see which one is the best one. So I'm just here tonight just to implore that the board move forward with the RFP to look at what groups are actually out there. I think this was obviously brought upon the board last minute. There are a lot of new board members out here. Just like you've looked at other things prior boards have done, tonight we'll be voting on the fee structures of the junior high events. I implore you guys to do the same with this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stubenbort. Anybody else wish to address the board at this time on agenda items?